When Howard Wolowitz was 11 years old, his father walked out the front door and never came back. And his mother, not knowing what else to do with a heartbroken little boy who could not sleep, bought him a stuffed ALF doll. You remember ALF, the puppet alien from the planet Melmac. And little Howard, lying awake at night in a house his father had just emptied, told himself a story to survive it. His daddy had not abandoned him. His daddy had just moved away to another planet. And one day, the alien was going to fly up there and bring him home. Hold that picture in your head. A small boy clutching a toy alien, deciding that the man who left him is somewhere up among the stars, waiting to be retrieved. Because about 20 years later, Howard Wolowitz strapped himself to a rocket and actually flew into space. He went up there, higher than any of his friends would ever go. He looked down on the entire Earth from orbit, and his father was not there. And then he came home to his childhood bedroom, where his mother was waiting with dinner and a list of chores. Welcome back to 4A. Get settled in, because today we have to talk about the family that broke Howard Wolowitz and how a show got 12 years of laughs out of a wound that never once stopped bleeding. Now let me say the obvious things first so we can get past them. This is not about the bowl cut. It is not the dickies, not the costume belt buckles, not the creepy pickup lines he threw at every woman who walked past, and it is not the fact that a grown man in his 30s still lived with his mommy. That is the surface. That is the stuff the show served you for laughs year after year. The dark truth runs underneath all of it. Because every single one of those things, the wardrobe, the come-ons, the mama's boy, they are the same wound wearing different costumes, and the wound has a date on it. The day his father left. Let me tell you where I am coming from. I have watched this show start to finish more times than I would admit at a dinner party, and for years, Howard was just the gross one to me, the comic relief, the guy you cringe at. And then I started paying attention to the timeline of his life, and I could not laugh at him the same way again. Because once you line it up, Howard is not a creep who happens to be sad. He is a sad little boy who never got to grow up, walking around in a man's body, doing the only things a frozen child knows how to do. So here is the lens. Here are the two ideas I need you to hold for the next 15 minutes. Howard Wolowitz got frozen at 11 years old, and two different forces did the freezing. The first was a father who vanished without a word and left a hole in the middle of the boy. And the second was a mother who, trying to fill that hole, filled it so completely, so loudly, so totally, that there was no room left in there for Howard to ever become a man. One parent emptied him out. The other one packed him so full of herself that he could not grow. Hold both of those, the father who left and the mother who would not let him leave, and let me walk you through it. Let me start with the father, because everything begins there. Sam Wolowitz left when Howard was 11. The show never tells you why. It is just a fact, dropped quietly, the kind of thing the laugh track skates right over. And the only time the series ever really sits in that wound is over a single letter. On Howard's 18th birthday, years after he disappeared, his father sent him a letter. And Howard never opened it. He kept it, unread for years, until one day it surfaces, and his friends gently suggest that maybe he should read it. Maybe his father apologizes. Maybe he explains. And Howard takes that letter, and he sets it on fire in the sink. He would rather burn his father's actual words than risk finding out what they were. And then comes the part that genuinely undoes me, because Howard's friends, trying to give him some comfort, each make up a version of what the letter might have said. One says it was a loving birthday card. One says his father was secretly at his graduation, crying with pride. One says his father had a secret life and left to keep them safe. And after he hears all of these beautiful possible fathers, Howard says that he wishes they were all true. Sit with that. This is a man who would rather hold 5 comforting lies about his dad than one real truth. He chose fiction over his own father because the fiction could be gentle and the truth had already proven that it was not. That is not a man who got over his abandonment. That is a man who built a little museum of imaginary fathers because the real one was unbearable. And it gets quietly worse because later, the show reveals that Sam Wolowitz went off and started a whole second family. There is a half-brother out there, a kid his father apparently did stick around for, at least for a while, and Howard barely even asks about him. He does not chase a reunion, he does not demand answers, he just lets it lie, because by then the boy has learned the deepest lesson of his life. Reaching for that man only ever ends one way, so that is the hole. Now let me show you what got poured into it. His mother. Debbie Wolowitz is one of the most brilliant pieces of writing on this entire show, and I do not think people appreciate why. Here is a woman so enormous, so overwhelming, so total a presence in her son's life that the series literally never shows you her face. For 8 seasons, she is a voice. A wall of sound bellowing from the next room, from upstairs, from the street.
Colleagues! Do their parents know they're here?
The writers could not or would not ever fit her into a single frame because the whole point of her is that she does not fit. She fills every room she is not even in. And what does she do with all that force? She does everything for Howard. She cooks for him, she does his laundry, she lays out his clothes, she keeps him a child by never once letting him need to be an adult. And she runs him on guilt and food, the 2 great weapons of the smothering parent. For 12 seasons, the recurring sound of Howard's life is him standing at the bottom of a staircase screaming one syllable up into the house. Ma. It is the eternal cry of a little boy who never... And do not mistake any of this for a simple, one-sided love. Howard was cruel about his mother too, constantly. He mocked her weight, her voice, traded savage jokes about her with the guys, said genuinely vicious things about the woman he could not stop living with. But that is not the contradiction it looks like. That is the enmeshment itself. You can only rage that hard at someone you are completely unable to leave. The cruelty and the dependence were the same knot, pulled tight. He hurled insults up those stairs and screamed for his dinner up those same stairs in the same breath because she was the entire weather system of his life, and a boy trapped inside a storm will both curse it and cling to it. Healthy love can walk out the door. All Howard could do was yell. And now look at what that boy became and watch how every piece of it clicks into place. The haircut that belongs on a child, the turtlenecks with the fake collars peeking out, a kid playing dress up as a grown man, the flashy belt buckles, and the come-ons, the relentless, cringing, predatory lines he throws at every woman in the room. The show plays all of it as Howard being a creep. But look closer. This is a man who never learned how to be with a woman, only how to lunge at one, because the single most important woman in his entire life had arranged things so that he never had to grow into an adult who could be chosen. The smooth-talking Lothario and the mama's boy screaming up the stairs are not 2 different jokes. They are the same broken person. A boy who was taught that a woman's love means being completely taken care of and completely controlled, lurching around trying to find that feeling out in the world the only clumsy way he knows how. And here is the cruelest thing his friends did over and over without ever realizing the size of it. Howard is the only one of the 4 men without a doctorate. He has a master's from a great school. He is a brilliant engineer. He builds things that actually fly. And the others, Sheldon especially, never let him forget that he is not a real scientist in their eyes. This man designed hardware that went up to the International Space Station. This man strapped himself into a Russian rocket and went to space himself, the only one of them who ever left the planet. And the men who never went anywhere, who never left the ground, mocked him for not having the right letters after his name. And whenever they really wanted to wound him, whenever they reached for the one thing that would hurt him most, they always reached for the same place. You still live with your mother. They knew exactly where the boy was buried inside the man, and they poked at it for laughs, and the audience laughed right along. And here is the bitter joke buried inside his one great triumph. When Howard finally did the single bravest thing of his life and went to space, the real astronauts up there did not exactly salute him either. They nicknamed him Fruit Loops because he was the nervous civilian who panicked, the engineer who whimpered for the ground. So picture it. The one man who escaped the Earth's gravity, who did the thing none of his brilliant friends ever had the nerve to do, spent the entire trip being the punchline of a different room full of men, this time hundreds of miles up. Howard could not win at any altitude. Down here, he was the creep who lived with his mother. Up there, he was Fruit Loops. There was, it turned out, no height high enough for Howard Wolowitz to finally be taken seriously. And when he came back down, do you know where he went? Home, to his mother's house. He touched the edge of the cosmos, and then he drove back to the same childhood bedroom, where the same voice was waiting to ask whether he had eaten. Now, I owe you the other side because there is a real one, and it is the best argument against everything I am saying. You are going to tell me that Howard grew up, that out of everyone on this show, Howard has the single best character arc. He meets Bernadette, he becomes a husband, he becomes a father, he turns into a genuinely good and gentle man. And you are right, that growth is real and it is beautiful, and it is the thing that makes Howard worth loving. But I need you to look very carefully at how he grew up and at what exactly he grew up into. Because the show is telling you something, and it is laughing so you do not hear it. Howard married his mother. I do not mean that as a cheap shot. I mean the show says it on purpose, again and again, right to your face. There is an episode where Sheldon hears Bernadette's voice from another room and genuinely mistakes it for Debbie Wolowitz and calls the resemblance unsettling. The writers thought so too. They even talked about having the actress who plays Bernadette take over the voice of Howard's dead mother because the impression was that perfect. Bernadette, a sweet woman when you meet her, slowly picks up Debbie's mannerisms, above all the yelling. And the most telling moment of all is Howard's own wedding. His mother is too heavy to climb the stairs to the rooftop, so she stands down in the street below, bellowing up, demanding to know what is happening, shouting louder, and Bernadette leans over the edge and yells back down at her in the exact same voice. The two domineering women of Howard's life, the mother and the bride, screaming at each other in one shared voice on the day he supposedly leaves one for the other. He did not escape the dynamic. He reproduced it. Because the broken family handed him exactly one blueprint for what a woman's love is supposed to feel like, and that blueprint was loud and controlling and all-consuming. So when Howard finally found love, he did not find something new. He found the one familiar shape he had been raised inside of, just in a woman his own age, and he called it healing. And the show, again, tells you outright. In one episode, Howard imagines what his life would have been without Bernadette, and he says his mother would have ended up a skeleton in that house, and he would have slowly assumed her personality, like Norman Bates in Psycho. They put the truth right there in a punchline. Without a wife who was his mother, Howard would have simply become his mother. That is how completely she lived inside him. And even after the wedding, even with a wife of his own, Howard never really left. He and Bernadette kept driving back to sleep over at his mother's house to keep her company so that she would not be alone. He hired a sad, broke man named Stuart to move in and look after her, and then he seethed when Stuart and his mother grew genuinely close, when this lonely stranger started receiving the warmth and the home cooking that Howard himself both fled from and could not stand to lose. Watch that jealousy carefully, because it tells you everything. Howard spent his whole life desperate to escape that house, and the instant somebody else stepped into the role of her child, he could not bear it. He did not want to be smothered. He just could not stand to be replaced. Even the thing that was slowly crushing him was a thing he was terrified to lose. So let me take you to the moment it all breaks open, because there is one, and it is one of the most quietly devastating scenes the show ever did. Howard is standing in a comic book store in the middle of a petty, ridiculous argument about some of his mother's old furniture. It is a nothing moment. It is a Tuesday. And his phone rings. It is his aunt. And his mother, who went on a little vacation to Florida, lay down for a nap and did not wake up. She is gone. Just like that. No warning, no goodbye. no final conversation. And here is the thing that breaks me about it. The show could not show you her face in death any more than it could in life. She left the world the exact way she lived in it, as a voice on the end of a phone, a presence in another room, a force you could feel but never quite see. The cord that Howard could never cut himself in his entire life was finally cut for him. By death, in an instant. He never got to grow up and walk out that door on his own terms. He never got to choose to leave. The only way Howard Wolowitz ever became the man of his own house was the day his mother died and the house went quiet. In the days that follow, there is a small, quiet scene that wrecks me every single time. The gang gathers at the house to eat the last food his mother ever made, the leftovers in her fridge that will spoil if nobody finishes them. And Howard stands in that kitchen holding a bowl of his mother's matzo ball soup, completely undone by the realization that this right here in his hands is the last meal she will ever cook for him. For a man whose mother loved him in the language of food, who controlled him with it and comforted him with it for 35 years, the end of all that love was a pot of soup going cold on a stove, and he was not grieving a woman who ever let him grow. He was grieving the only person on earth who ever made him feel completely taken care of, even though she was the exact reason he never learned to take care of himself. And in that moment, the person who reaches him, the person who finds the right words, is Sheldon. If you have watched my other videos, you know what these two have in common, and the show knows it too. Sheldon looks at his shattered friend and tells him, "When I lost my own father, I did not have any friends to help me through it." You do. Two broken boys, one who lost a father, suddenly, by a phone call. One who lost a mother, suddenly, by a phone call. Each of them defined and dented for life by the parent who left without warning. And for one moment, the most emotionally limited man on the show is the only one who knows exactly what Howard is feeling, because he has been standing in that exact spot his whole life. And the father, one last time, gets the final perfect cold word. Because after Debbie dies, Sam Wolowitz, the man who walked out when Howard was 11 and never came back, signs the family house over to his son. Through a lawyer, without a single word, without a call, without a card, without ever once reaching out across all those years. Even his father's last act of so-called love arrived through an attorney. Howard finally got the man's house. He never got the man. And there is one more shadow the father left behind, the longest one of all. When Howard and Bernadette were about to have their own children, Howard was quietly terrified, and anyone watching closely knew exactly what of. He was afraid he would do it too. He was afraid that whatever it was inside Sam Wolowitz that let a man walk out on an 11-year-old was a thing that might be living inside him as well, lying dormant, waiting for its moment, because that is the deepest fear of the abandoned child. It is not being left again. It is becoming the one who leaves. Howard carried that terror right into the delivery room, and that, more than the burned letter, more than the empty chair at every birthday, is the cruelest thing his father ever took from him. Not just a childhood, his ability to trust himself. So look at the arithmetic of this life. Howard only became the master of his own home the day his mother died and left it to him. He only stopped being his father's abandoned son the day a lawyer handed him a deed. He spent his entire life trying to prove to an absent father and a smothering mother and a circle of friends who mocked him that he was a real man, and the universe only let him finish becoming one once the two people who froze him at 11 were both finally gone. A father he never read, a mother he never left, until she left him first. So let us go back to where we started, back to the little boy. With the ALF doll lying awake, deciding that his daddy was up among the stars, waiting to be brought home. Howard grew up, and he went all the way up there, higher than any of his friends. He floated in orbit and looked down at the whole spinning Earth, and the stars were just stars. His father was not waiting on any planet. His father was just a man who left, living somewhere ordinary with another family, and home was just a house where his mother was making dinner and yelling his name up the stairs. He went to space to find a father who was never ever coming back. And the only family that was ever truly there to catch him was the one he had to build himself out of a handful of strangers around a table in an apartment in this building. Howard Wolowitz spent his whole life reaching for the two people who put the hole in him. And the only way he ever filled it was by becoming, for his own kids, the father his father never was. If you have been sitting here in 4A with me through all of this, and it is sitting a little heavy on you right now, good. So tell me down in the comments, was Howard's happy ending really growth, finally becoming a man? Or did he just spend his whole life running from one overpowering parent straight into the arms of another? I read every single one of them. And if this one got to you, go watch the one I am putting up next about Leonard, the so-called heart of this whole show, and why he might actually be the least important character in it. I will see you back in 4A.